Good morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Mesa City Council meetings for the morning of Thursday, March 31st. The first meeting that we're holding today is not technically a City Council meeting, it is a Mesa Housing Services Governing Board meeting. So we are convened in that capacity today, and I'll note that all of our board members are present. The first item on our agenda today is items from citizens present. It's good to have Agnes with us today. Agnes, any requests to speak on that item?
None.
All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda is to present a proclamation for National Fair Housing Month for April 2022. Obviously, normally we do presentations or proclamations rather on Monday night meetings, but we thought it appropriate to do this proclamation today because that is the subject of our meeting today, is talking about housing and fair housing. So I'm honored to declare beginning tomorrow, April Fair Housing Month. And so as is our tradition, so that we can have something to post on social media and kind of kick off this discussion, I'm going to invite, thank you, Melissa, stepping up to take a photo. Ladies, why don't, if you don't mind, why don't you come around and join us? Let's all stand up, we'll take a photo, and then we'll start this topic. I think we can just crowd in back here. Go ahead and come on, squeeze in. We're gonna hold this proclamation and Melissa's gonna take the photo.
Mark, I think it belonged on the other end.
Stand over there.
Mark, please stay over there. We need the balance.
Stay around.
Otherwise they'll crop the photo in half.
Have a little balance.
Melissa said we are out of balance, so here we go. All right, come together.
This should have been our Women Month.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. And thank you.
Thank you.
And here's your proclamation. Congratulations, you bet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Man, we're gonna see if we got the right ones, right?
I don't know.
Close enough? All right, well, thank you. I think that is a good way to kick this off because we have said over and over again, I think we just acknowledged the obvious, which is that we are in a housing crisis, a housing shortage in not nationwide, but very much so, even more than nationwide here locally. So again, that's the purpose of this, is to tee up this very important topic and to take some action today and set some policies going forward. So we'll move now then to, before we do that, approval of minutes, which is agenda item 3. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Thank you, Mr. Luna and Mr. Thompson. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, that passes unanimously. Item 4A is a presentation on the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual plan and revisions to the Mesa Housing Services Administration Plan. Ladies, we're happy to have you with us today. I'm sure you'll introduce yourselves, but Ruth and Rosario and Mary this is the A-team on housing and in our city. So ladies, welcome. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you again, all of the board members this morning. Ruth Giese, Community Services Director, and Mary Brandon, our Deputy Director, as well as Rosario Beltran-Josi, our Housing Supervisor, will be presenting many items today. We have a full plate for you, and we just wanted to take the opportunity also to thank all of you for your ongoing support. There's a lot going on in our area, and we've always been able to rely on your thoughtfulness and also your ongoing help with responding to the needs of our community. I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank our very, very busy and tremendous team. We continue to make a great impact to our residents, and there's a lot more going on in the future with lots of things coming up. So with that, I will pass it on to Mary and Rosario.
Good morning, Chair and board members. As we're reviewing the housing programs today with you, we just wanted to note the Housing Path to Recovery, that our programs fall within those last 3 pieces of the path to recovery, the bridge to success, but mostly we're in the affordable rental and then the independence as well. So we always want to show you where our programs fit within this. First, I'm going to present to you about the housing annual plan. You should have gotten the plan and the backup documentation. So I'm just going to do a high level for that. There are 5 components that we reported to HUD this year regarding our voucher programs. The first one is the housing needs strategy. We made a big note in there about our housing solutions program, our recruitment and retaining our landlords and trying to incentivize them to work with our voucher program. So that is in there. The next one is, as you remember last year, we received 108 emergency housing vouchers and the funding to run that program. And we're doing really well with that. We have 42 leased and about 66 out searching for units. And so it's a little slow going, but we're getting there. So we've doing well there. The next one is the payment standards. The payment standard is a % of the current fair market rent that we use to calculate the portion of rent and the amount of rent that the participant can look for. In this fiscal year, we've had to increase that 3 times to try to stay aligned with the market rents. The FSS program is our Family Self-Sufficiency Program. That is a volunteer program for participants that can work on making themselves self-sustained. And currently, we have 34 participants in that program, but she's recruiting heavily, and she has a lot of applications that she's going through trying to increase that program. We apply for an annual grant to pay for her salary, which you will be approving that later in the meeting today. Under our operation and management, we noted that we're fully staffed and doing well with that. I will turn, if you don't have questions, I'll turn over to Rosario.
Okay, good morning, Chair and board members. Some of the changes that we made to our admin plan are the topics that are listed on this slide. Anytime an applicant is denied assistance or a participant is terminated from the program, they can submit a request for an informal review or a hearing. We are now holding the informal reviews and the hearings remotely. COVID brought many things to our attention, and one of them was ensuring that the families who were not able to come to the office can continue with the process remotely. And this is a heavily used tool. It allows us to provide excellent customer service, and if needed, we can also provide technical assistance to ensure their full access. The virtual briefings, we added that our families can be briefed in person or remotely. We are finding that remotely is a big advantage to most of our families, but we also have the families that prefer the face-to-face meetings. And virtual housing quality inspections, our policy is to conduct physical inspections. HUD does give us the alternative to do virtual inspections though. And for the reasonable accommodation process, once we receive a reasonable accommodation request, we send the verification to a third-party provider. And once the provider verifies the request, we respond to the family with an approval, a denial, or a request for additional information. Now they have the opportunity, if it's a denial, to request an informal review or an informal hearing. And then for the eligibility part.
Excuse me, Rosario, I think Mr.
Yes.
Luna has a question.
Thank you, Rosario. Some of these families probably don't have computers and the internet to apply for this process. So how do you meet that? I know you said talk about virtual, but is there a computer involved in this, or can they do FaceTime, or how do you engage in those kind of activities?
Yes, we do telephone conference calls where we can, if they have a phone and they don't have a camera on their phone, then we can do a conference call. We just give them all the information and go over the process with them as to what they need to do. It's a very simple process. They just have to dial a number and a PIN, and that's the mostly used, the method that they mostly use.
So they call in, and then you tell them, you give them a PIN, and then they can press 1 for this, press 2 for this. Okay.
Yes.
And is it done bilingually as well, or do you do it?
Yes, we can translate.
Okay.
We provide translated services too.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, thank you.
And then for the eligibility, if a family member is permanently confined to a nursing home for medical reasons, that family member can no longer be considered part of the household. Therefore, they will need to be removed. These were the items that were changed into our administrative plan. If there are no questions, we can move forward to the next slide.
Okay, Mr. Freeman.
So is that a federal guideline about the family member being removed from the household? Is that a federal guideline, obviously?
It is a HUD regulation, yes.
HUD, okay.
Yes. In 6 months.
So they have a timeline. I mean,
So if they're permanently confined, if we get notification that they can no longer come back, they have to be permanently, for medical reasons, be in a nursing home. Sometimes what used to happen is that families will say, well, they come and see us on the weekends, they come and spend time with us. Now they have to be permanently removed from the household.
do you have that happen much in your applications?
Not
Or-
much.
No.
It has happened, but maybe once every 3 years or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Other questions? So I need you to let me know when we're going to begin the public hearing on this, because I know you've got one presentation. Is now the time? Okay. Cue script here, all right. So we're now moving into item 4B on our agenda. That is to conduct a public hearing and take action on a resolution approving the Mesa Housing Services Fiscal Year 2022-23 Public Housing Agency Annual Plan and revisions to the Mesa Housing Services Administration Plan, and authorizing the chairman of the board to submit the annual plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I declare that public hearing open. Ms. Goodwine, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Do any council members wish to address this item? I therefore declare the public hearing closed. Before we proceed with this presentation, is there a motion to approve the resolution? Thank you, Mr. Freeman, and seconded by Ms. Spilsbury. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. Please proceed.
Okay. The last time we opened our Housing Choice Voucher waiting list was in December of 2016, and we started with over 7,000 applications. We are now down to 197, and we will need to open again this year. Our preferences remain the same: chronically homeless, living or working in Mesa, and we want your support to open the waiting list once we exhaust it. For the project-based voucher waiting list, we have a total of 88 units at La Mesita and Escobedo apartments. We did a purge this year in which we had 3,654 applications. After the purge was completed, we are left with 761 applicants. We also want your support to close the project-based voucher waiting list so that we can work with the remaining applicants. If we continue to stay open, the waiting list will increase, and we will not be able to assist the families for many years, considering that there's only 88 units. And we don't have we have a very low turnover for this program. So we ask for your approval on these 2 items. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think that's my cue again.
And this is 4C, Mayor, I think, do you want a motion on the motion?
They approved, yes or no?
Let me read my script, and I think it answers that question. It says item 4C, well, maybe it doesn't. You know what, don't hear it does. Item 4C is a presentation to take action on the opening of the Housing Choice Voucher waiting list, as has been mentioned, and closing the project-based voucher waiting list for Escobedo at Verde Vista and La Mesita Apartments. Is there a motion to approve this item? Thank you, Mr. Luna, seconded by Mr. Freeman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. You guys are doing great.
So are you.
All right. So
It's you again.
it's me again. All right. Well, I think I might have jumped the gun here, because my next item is 4D, which is to take action on a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept grant funds for the Family Self-Sufficiency Program grant. Okay, Mary's telling me I'm doing it all right. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Mr. Luna, seconded by Ms. Spilsbury. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. Have I caught up to you yet? Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else to your presentation, ladies?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair and board members. I know this is a lot that we brought forward to you today, but instead of having 2 meetings, we thought we'd just cram it all in one. So we appreciate you working through this with us. So we just want to give you a couple program updates to finish up our presentation. On this slide, you will see we did a 3-year show you 3 years of our utilization and our housing assistance payments. Our utilization has gone down each year a little bit. There's a couple things for that. One of them is our vouchers are not totally leased, and so that does make the utilization lower. Also, we received those 108 emergency housing vouchers. We only have 42 of those leased, so that also brings down the utilization for this year. But we're new. We're in the new year. We're only 3 months into it, so we are working to pull from the waiting list and get more people leased up, and so I do believe that that will increase over the next few months. Then the other thing I wanted to mention
I'm sorry,
is,
Mary, but I
yeah.
apologize for interrupting, but before you leave that, VASH vouchers, I think most of us know those are targeted to veterans.
Veterans,
So
yes.
if anybody in the sound of our voices here is aware of a homeless veteran, there's no excuse for that. We've got unused veteran-specific VASH vouchers. So please, if you're aware of any veteran that's in need of housing, let us know. We have unused vouchers.
Right.
And so the other unused vouchers that we have are emergency housing vouchers. Who's the target for those vouchers?
Those are for homeless, at risk of homelessness, domestic violence, at risk of sexual assault. But we have all those vouchers issued. They're just out there looking for units. So I do have that on this slide here. As you see in the blue, we have of the 108, 42 are leased and 66 are out searching for units. Also in the yellow is our VASH, our veteran vouchers. You can see that we've been pretty steady. In 2020, it was 146. We're at 145 today, but there are several out there searching as well for the unit. We had an apartment complex that leased to a lot of our veterans, and they chose to close the complete complex while they remodeled the construction. So we've had to rehouse those veterans, and most of them are getting housed now. The VA is working really close with them to get them housed. So we feel that those numbers will go up as well. So I just wanted to share one thing with the, as you can see, the utilization is down, but our rent payments are up. So the housing assistance payment is the portion of rent that we pay on behalf of the participant. So in 2020, it's 14.4. We're anticipating 16.7 by the end of this year, which is a 16% increase of our housing assistance payments. I just wanted to mention the per unit cost is the amount, the average for the amount of rent we pay for our voucher holders. In January of 2021, it was $741. At the end of this year, it's forecasted will be at $874. So again, that's another 18% increase.
For this next slide, I want to take this opportunity to thank our mayor for the letter of support that we sent to all of our landlords. Thank you for your support to our program. Our Housing Solutions program has been successful considering the current market that every city is facing now. We have made close to 450 contacts to our landlords since July of 2021. We are marketing the incentives that our program is offering, which are vacancy payments, damage claims, application fees, security deposit fees, and up to $1,000 for any new landlord that signs a contract with us. The Housing Solutions staff person educates the landlords about our program and the incentives that we offer. And as we're seeing the increase in rents in Mesa and nationwide, the Housing Solutions staff person has made an impact in retaining our landlords and recruiting new ones. Next slide, please. We want to highlight that we have been a high-performing housing authority for the last 12 years. This rating is given to us by HUD. And also that coming soon, we are starting an online participant annual recertification portal and kiosk. This means that our clients can now recertify their housing assistance online, and we will also have the kiosk at our front office for our clients to use. Looks like an ATM machine. They will be able to recertify their housing assistance and upload any of their documents that they need to provide to our office through this method.
And the last highlight we wanted to share with you is in 2019, I was asked to be in a focus group, and it was for housing authorities to be on the Landlord Task Force, and there were several of us across the country. We were to share our ideas and best practices on things that we have done to recruit landlords. 2019 seemed so far away, but so much had happened in between there. But one thing that I wanted to mention is we got a copy of the draft of the new Landlord Task Force Guidebook that all housing agencies have. And we are quoted, Mesa is quoted 4 times in there for some of our best practices. One of them is when the mayor a couple years ago wrote a letter of support for our veterans program and asked each of our landlords to put aside 1 unit for a veteran to help house them. And so we are quoted in the book for that. A couple other ones that I thought was pretty good was that when we had applied for the Salt River Pima grant to help with our Housing Solutions program when it first started. And so we're noted in there to look outside and look for other grants for that program. Another is we noted that one highlight is when our inspector is out doing inspections, the relationship they have with the landlords really helped retain them as well. So that is noted. And then if you remember back a couple years ago, 2019, we had our landlord seminar that was so successful over here at the convention center. And that is noted in there too, the ideas and the ways that we had done to have that seminar. So I just wanted to share this with you that I thought that was really, we're excited to be noted in the book, and I thought we wanted to share that with you. So if you don't have any questions, that's the end of our presentation today.
Okay, thank you. So for the record, I'll note that I think you've covered agenda item 4E. So that, no, that was my fault. I neglected to interrupt you and make sure that we knew that we were on voucher utilization. But council, any questions for these ladies? Mr. Luna.
Thank you, staff, for doing a great job as it relates to housing. You know, one of the issues related to housing is the number of manufactured homes that we have in the city of Mesa. Is that something that you're going to be studying? I know many of our residents go to these places because they're affordable. Maybe come up with some creative ways of how we update some of these places and see if there's those kind of opportunities. I'd like to see that in the future if that's a possibility, because you know it's one of our goals in the strategic plan. So if you can work that through, and that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Chair Luna. One of the things that our department's going to be doing is working hand in hand with the planning department as they kick off the new general plan. And part of that is looking at assessing our housing, our housing stock. And so we work with planning to have a consultant do a housing assessment, and then that is part of what we look at.
Great. Mr. Heredia.
On the cost of rent, you know, as we see it going up and up, do all the vouchers go increase as far as the allowable amount of how much you can use towards rent? And then has that been, so that would be a first question. Then what can we do to, you know, with the increase, ask for more support, maybe through the feds, to increase the amount of that allowable piece to go for the rent, as just the rising costs of housing. So.
Board Member Heredia, that is the reason that we have increased the payment standards. because that does allow the participants to have a higher amount of rent they can look for. So that's why we've done that, is trying to align with those high rents with that. And then secondly, we did, because our rent payments were so high last year, the allocated amount for us to spend for the rents went up this year. So they are aligning it with it. We've also been able to, if we were in a shortfall, we'd be able to apply for additional funds.
Okay. And is that a process that you ask the state or the feds as far as being able to use more funds for payment for rental? Is there a process, or is there a cap, I guess, on the amount you can use it? You can use a voucher, the cost-wise? Does that make sense?
So if I am understanding what
Sure.
you're asking is there a maximum amount for the
Yes,
voucher holder?
yes.
So it's a calculation between their income and the payment standard on how much rent they can look for. And as long as they're staying within our payment standard and the size of unit they're approved for, there is no max amount.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
So Marion, my question's about landlords. So in your experience, what has been the trend of landlords in the city of Mesa? Are you finding more landlords to increase the housing, or is there any difficulties there?
With this current market, now that we have the housing solutions staff person, we have been able to maintain steady. We lose some, we recruit some. It is difficult. Usually when the market is bad, we have the landlords coming to our office wanting our families. Right now, this is not the case, but it has really made an impact. It has helped because we're not in the position like other cities are, where they are not able to find any landlords, or they're having, we have a lot of other housing participants that are coming to our city because they cannot find in Chandler or Phoenix or other cities. So we have been maintained steady.
Sounds like a problem out there. So, I'm thinking, how can council help, with this type of problem? So I appreciate the mayor sending out a letter and reaching out to landlords, but we need to increase, it sounds like, our landlord capacity to increase the housing vouchers that we need to for VASH or anything else for emergency housing. So, all right, thank you for that.
Thank you. I'll just echo Mr. Freeman's comments. Obviously, there's a housing crisis. Every one of us has stories about family members or friends, or personal stories about the inflation of housing, the cost of housing, the availability of housing. It's something that is, obviously, we as a city government need to be very actively engaged in addressing this problem. And I want people to know that we are meeting with the State Housing Department, trying to figure out how to get more affordable housing projects in the city of Mesa. There are some hurdles that we're trying to get over, to get the state to help us get over. But in terms of existing federal programs, I'm proud of the designation that you ladies pointed to a moment earlier, where we are a high-performing city and a high-performing housing department according to the federal government. And so I think we're doing a good job managing what assets we have. We do have waiting lists still, as does every city, but the larger problem, as Mr. Freeman pointed out, is landlord utilization. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to, if we own a rental property, please consider leasing, accepting vouchers. In the past, there has been no real financial incentive to do that, but now there is. We have, we can encourage and subsidize and offer incentives to landlords to please accept these vouchers. So I think we need to help get the word out so that all those who have vouchers and can't find a landlord that will take them have that option. So I think that's, in addition to working on more affordable housing, we also need to work with recruiting more landlords to accept these vouchers. Did I characterize that correctly? But what other parting advice would you have for us, ladies?
I think that was great. We
Okay.
appreciate your support, and we know that there's a lot of steps of things we're doing, and we will continue to do it, as well as having your support is really great for it.
Okay, thank you. And I know other cities in the valley have started announcing a running total at their council meetings of all the housing units that they're approving in each meeting, and maybe kind of a year-to-date total. And I think we might entertain doing that as well, so that folks know that we are, our housing, as far as creating new housing, we are pro-housing, and we'll do everything we can to create as much housing as we can in our city.
Yeah, Mayor, we'll do that with development services. And just, the numbers come out, how Mesa compares to the region. We're still average or below average, actually, as far as median home costs and rents. I mean, it's not to say that's the perfect world, but relative to a lot of other places. And then I think we are concerned, though, that other cities do send a lot of those vouchers to Mesa, though, so it creates that competition. So we have to watch that also. But we will be reporting, Development Service will have the permits for a number of residential units that we continue to add to our inventory every month and every year.
Great. Thank you. Council, any other discussion before we conclude?
Not a discussion, just a comment. And I already mentioned this in an earlier meeting this week, but at NLC, one of the sessions that Vice Mayor definitely attended, talking about housing and homelessness, but just that housing is the foundation for every other problem that we're trying to deal with: homelessness, education, employment, addiction, all of the different things. Housing's where it starts, and that's the foundation for everything else. So I just want to echo, it is important to all of us sitting up here. It's important to our city manager. We know it's a problem. We're working on it at every angle, I think, that we can think of. So we would love to hear more ideas and ways that city council can help, but it is something that we're all trying to work towards. So thank you.
Just one real quickly. We saw that number, was it 16 million this year, but think about how much rent assistance we've written over the last 2 years.
So much.
I know it's rent and utilities, but we're over $40 million, right, Mary? So
Yes.
this is an important number, but you think about what we've been able to do outside of that, pretty significant, so.
Amen.
This problem would be way worse.
So in 19 months, we've done $42 million, and we have an additional $10 million that we're working through right now for that.
And I think we have to be prepared for when those dollars run out. We're seeing the end of that, and so that's going to have an impact on our community, especially when rents are so high. It's going to be a huge adjustment not having that assistance that we've been able to employ for the last 2 years. So, I'm apprehensive for the future, and again, as Julie had stated, we're trying to think of everything that we can do in order to assist people in that situation. Thank you.
So Mary, I know you've given all of us tours of the facility where lots of folks are on telephones answering phone calls for rental assistance and utility assistance, and I think what you just said is we're still very much engaged in that. So if there's anyone in our community that's at risk of eviction for financial reasons, please contact, or what should they do for utility and rent assistance in our community?
I believe it's 644-5440, but I will get that out to you. But also they can go to mesaaz.gov/ERAMP and get that information as well.
Right. The City of Mesa website can link you to those resources. And again, as you indicated, we still have millions of dollars of assistance available to give to folks who qualify. So let's not be shy about using that money. All right, thank you very much. That concludes the items on our agenda for this meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Luna, seconded by Ms. Spilsbury. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned.